Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sustainability Dialogue, organized by the Business Times and presented by OCBC Bank. We will explore in our discussion today how small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, can learn to leverage sustainability strategies to enhance their competitiveness. We have with us Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Gan Kim Yong.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. And OCBC Bank's Head of Global Commercial Banking, Linus Goh. Minister Gan, it would be wonderful to hear some of your thoughts on the matter before we get rolling.
This is a very important and timely topic. And we also recognize that it will have impact on our enterprises, particularly the small and medium-sized enterprises. They will face challenges. Given that this is a global challenge, the solution will also need to be a global one. Singapore will do what we can, but we need the whole world to come together to tackle these challenges.
What would you say are the three biggest convincing factors for SMEs to adopt sustainable practices, and why is it important for them to start soonest?
I think the pressure points are coming from all fronts. The consumers, the big buyers, the regulations, the standards across emerging industries, across value chains are all coming in at the same time. Today, I think the motivation among businesses is very strong, very self-evident. We already have many examples of companies who are taking control, taking their future in their hands today, future-proofing their business because they know it's important for survival.
I think increasingly, both investors and financiers like banks have an increasing interest in supporting sustainable businesses. Investors will demand that their investee companies adopt sustainable practices, produce sustainable products and services. Banks too will look for projects that are more sustainable to provide green financing. So I think for companies who are more sustainable, who have adopted sustainability practices, will find it easier to raise funds both from investors as well as banks.
What do you think is the price that SMEs have to pay for not embarking on this sustainability walk?
Well, I hope to look at it more positively. What are the price, P-R-I-Z-E, if they embark on this journey? I think, as I mentioned earlier, they will be able to secure competitive advantage as consumers are now becoming more environmentally aware. But of course, on their flip side, if they don't embark on this in time, I think they are going to be left behind.
I always believe the best examples, the best motivation for businesses is from the business community themselves. And so if you look at the early movers, the ones who've made a difference, the ones who are gaining momentum early in this race, they're the best examples. There are many multinationals who have relooked at their value chains, and they've picked players who are future ready because they meet the standards, they're able to embrace future standards, win new contracts. It's all about business, because if they're able to grow new customers, others in the industry will follow.
I guess know-how would be important, but access to capital would be quite the key to what you just talked about, the steps and the efforts that they need to make as well. Is that readily available?
We are happy to have partners like OCBC. And maybe I ask Linus to speak on this first.
We launched the OCBC SME financing framework 2-3 years ago now, and that was really to make simple the access to green financing, because otherwise the hurdles would seem too heavy. Those were designed for larger enterprises, for more complex businesses. Heavy audits and certifications were required. We buckled all those down into something simple, and you see that with that, the barriers to entry are very low. SMEs are able to jump in fast. So we've been able to support several hundreds of these companies to come on board. And with that, the access to green financing is there. It's quite easy. We've leveraged the schemes from Enterprise Singapore. They've been very helpful in that way. So I think it's really no shortage of capital available for businesses that way. And in fact, I would say that, in future, it will be a case where the capital available for green will be greater than that is available for non-green, right? And so therefore, the impetus for businesses to move forward fast now is actually there.
I think in time to come, green financing may become the default. If you are non-green and non-sustainable, you find it very difficult to raise financing. MAS has introduced this Green and Sustainability Loan Grant Scheme, which will support companies who are embarking on these projects. And this, I think I was told, has now issued close to $40 billion of loan and grants. So I think this is something which is very encouraging. And under the Enterprise Singapore, we also roll out the Enterprise Sustainability Program, ESP. And under the program, we have an enterprise financing scheme, Linus mentioned, and OCBC is a partner in this scheme to provide green financing for our companies.
I want to ask you, Linus, that OCBC will be launching the bank's annual Emerging Enterprise Award soon. And you had announced last year that there will be a new flagship Emerging Enterprise Sustainability Award as well. Is this because you're seeing a growing trend and interest among SMEs to adopt sustainability practices? And what are some of the trends and challenges you're seeing in this space where this is concerned?
So first, on the Emerging Enterprise Award, 15 years ago, we launched this award really because we saw a need for small and young enterprises who were looking for a place to get recognition. There was really nowhere to go. And so we thought, what better than to have a platform for these young companies to gain that recognition, because it's so important for the right type of support to come behind them, to allow them to scale, to amplify what they're doing, because it's so critical, not just for the small business and the SME community, but for the broader economy. Many of these players are already impactful across the region, and I think Singapore is probably at the forefront of this, and I think we can really get behind these companies and help them to even be more impactful across the region.
We find that actually most of the companies involved in the green initiatives are small, they're startups, because this is a new industry. And Singapore actually is among the first movers. So I think even though they are SMEs today, they have the potential to become global players. So I think we are in a good position to encourage our companies to think big, be ambitious, and embark on this green economy and take advantage of the opportunities that come our way.
Have you noticed if there is any one sector that's more galvanized with regards to the sustainability efforts that's worth mentioning more than some other industries? Or is it more broad-based?
Anywhere where you have multinationals as buyers, you have large corporates as buyers, regulatory standards on these companies, even our Singapore-listed companies, have their own net zero plans that they have to put out. And they have to meet their Scope 3 emissions, which means that the SMEs and the mid-cap corporates who are supporting them in this area have to then also comply in order for their customers to meet their standards.
I think the impact is quite broad-based, as I mentioned in the opening, but particularly sectors that tend to be energy-intensive, use a lot of energy, electricity, like power generation, gets the impact the biggest. So I think they are in a hurry to really transit into a more greener energy, more sustainable energy, whether it's solar, wind, hydro, or even thermal. So I think these are the sectors that are very heavily impacted. And therefore, we are also looking for alternative fuel to support our power generation to meet the requirement of industries. For example, we are looking for import of green energy rather than to generate electricity locally. We make use of green sources of energy to import them to support our industry needs.
What are the biggest challenges facing SMEs that have so far not made them step up to the plate where sustainability is concerned?
There is a shortage of talent. It's a shortage of specific talent within companies to be the driver of change. If you look at some of the small businesses today, the ones who've made some initial moves, all of the business owners says, I am the sustainability officer because I am the one that drives the change, I'm a small business, so if I get it, I influence that change and I move it forward, right? But in order to really sustain that change over a longer haul, companies small and big, all need to be able to embrace that change across all their different functions and really adopt it into your practices. And I think that is really the whole skills upgrading that needs to go on.
I think when we interacted with them, when we talked to them, I think the first thing that came across is the lack of awareness, the lack of knowledge of what sustainability is about. So I think awareness is the first thing that they will need to look at. And also the second thing that they are looking for are solutions. And some of these are not the generic solutions. I think energy saving equipment is probably more generic, but they may be quite specific initiatives that they have to introduce, whether it's treating their waste, whether it's sourcing for more sustainable raw materials. These are specific to the company.
But surely there must be some advantages for SMEs over their larger counterparts when it comes to taking sustainability initiatives.
The large companies tend to be self-reliant. They build capabilities, they hone the skills within their own organizations. The small businesses tend to rely on community. And, so we talked about the ecosystem that comes together. I think even the businesses among themselves, you look at first movers, early movers, being able to share their success and catalyze the movement of their peers in the industry, that is very powerful. But also you think about the tools that are available for them. I mean, I referred to the framework that we put in place, which was to take industry level, more complex requirements, button them down, make them simpler so that the barriers to entry are lowered. You look at the people offering the data management, the metrics, certification tools. Ordinarily, a company would have to build all of those on their own, but there are many service providers who offer that now separately. So if they're able to tap on those services, that I think will help them to be able to move faster. So it's important for the business owner to take advantage and move, and they are being smaller, agile and nimble and all of that. But their ability to then really sustain that movement also depends on having the right type of ecosystem support.
There's also encouraging signs that the larger companies, the MNCs, are also beginning to provide training and support for their subcontractors, their suppliers. Because for they themselves to be carbon neutral, they have to make sure that their suppliers, their contractors are also carbon neutral so that they don't add on to their own carbon. And therefore, they are very keen to work with suppliers and contractors to make sure that they upskill them in terms of sustainability. So I think we are seeing some MNCs providing training programs, in-house or third-party training programs to help level up the sustainability capability among the subcontractors, smaller enterprises. So I think our SMEs should take advantage of that, work with their customers, work with their MNCs, their partners, to see how they can level themselves up in terms of their ability in sustainability.
Looking ahead, say 3 years from now, and I hope to see you 3 years to discuss if we're there, what kind of progress or achievements in sustainability that you hope to see achieved by our SMEs in, say, 3 years from now?
I think in the next 3 years, I would hope that we would see, even a further surge. And that's because in many of the industries, we are seeing that momentum gathering very quickly. And it's all about, if you get a critical mass of early movers, very quickly it will become a conversation about not being left out. And, for small businesses, really to go green in the first instance, it doesn't take that much because, you really have maybe two significant assets, your building and your vehicles, and once you start to green those things, you are substantially on your way towards becoming green. And so I think that will be the catalyst for that change. We already see a lot of companies taking advantage of simplified tools for energy efficiency assessments. We worked with BCA on a simplified tool for that, and we already received in just this year several hundred SMEs jumping forward, taking that assessment and taking the green loan and to move forward. So I think we will see a significant lift in the next 3 years.
I hope to see more SMEs embrace sustainability, not just as a burden, as a problem they have to solve, but embrace it as part of their business strategy to create new markets, to create new possibilities, new products, new services, and new sources of supplies. So I think it's important for SME to also leverage on their strength of being small and nimble, to be prepared to change quickly and to adapt to the new realities. And as Linus put it, we also want to nurture a community of practices for those who are on this together. We want them to be able to share their experience, to encourage and support one another so that we can move faster.
I like the messaging that's coming from both you gentlemen today for SMEs, that they are really essentially not alone. And with that, I'd like to thank the both of you, Minister and Linus, for making time for this discussion. I look forward to more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.